Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, welcome to Middleton Place. Oh, I have Arthur here. Welcome to this episode of Plugged into History. It's Friday afternoon. It is a beautiful day here in Charleston and in the gardens at Middleton Place. And we are so thrilled to be hosting for History Unplugged this afternoon, a little garden party. So it is the end of Fashion Week. So we are here with some friends from all over the southern colonies. We have friends from a little further north in South Carolina. We've got friends in North Carolina and friends in Virginia joining us today. And you will be able to learn from and ask questions of all of them. So we are here in the gardens at Middleton Place overlooking the butterfly lakes and the terraces. And we're going to stroll through the gardens as we go. But today we are talking about fashion one last time. I'm in a little day dress here. This is a cotton gown that has been polyamide, which means that it rides up in the back here to be able to show the petticoat underneath. I'm wearing a stomacher and some jewelry courtesy of Sign of the Gray Horse, my watch string here, and my shoe buckles, and my earrings. And of course, my brand new bonnet. Now, normally, if I were here at a place like Middleton Place, and I am, I would actually have maybe a straw cap on, or I would have my hair done. I can show you my little lace pinner here. But today, because it's warm and it's sunny, and because I have a brand new bonnet, thank you, Emily's Vintage Visions, I wanted to show that to you and show you what a silk bonnet for the sun would look like for a lady in the 18th century. So that's all from me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on me because we have so many wonderful guests and interpreters joining us today. If you have questions for them or for me, take a look at the Zoom screen. You should be able to see each of their names in the screen. And so if you have a question for any one of us, drop it right there in the Facebook Live comments. Make sure you let us know who you are asking so that we can get the question to the right person. We're going to talk to Andrew here in a little bit. He's joining me today, a gentleman in the gardens. At Middleton Place here, we are both wearing clothes that are for daytime moving about and not too fancy, but certainly not workaday clothes either. Speaking of that, one last quick thing, workaday clothes, very important. All of our guests today are wearing fashion. They're either middling or upper class, not working fashion. And so what you're not going to see represented today are the clothing and textiles of the enslaved workers. Certainly enslaved workers would have been present at garden parties like this, but it would have been in servitude to the occasion. It wouldn't have been in attendance. In fact, it's very unlikely for a garden party in South Carolina that even free persons of color would have been invited to a plantation like this. That certainly would have been an exception and not a rule if it ever would have happened. So you probably won't see, you won't see any clothing that represents what enslaved people would have worn. I encourage you to go back and look at some of our earlier broadcasts from this week where you can learn about the clothing that enslaved people on a plantation like Middleton Place would have worn, including not just work clothes, but also fancy clothes, livery, and other clothes that denote not only servitude, but the individuals who would have been served, the enslavers. What you may see, though, is all beautiful work representing either a skilled and paid tradesman and artisan, or a mantua maker, a lady, or clothing that might have possibly been made by an enslaved worker. So even though the clothes that they perhaps wore are not represented today, their work certainly is. And something like the gown that I'm wearing most likely would have been made by an enslaved seamstress. So it's important to remember that even people who aren't visible on screen are represented here in the very garments that we're wearing. So with that, we have lots of guests here. Andrew and I are going to take a little walk around the property so that you can see different views from Middleton Place. And I'm going to toss it to Kendall next. Sorry, I'm just picking names because I can't see you on the screen. So we're going to Kendall next, and Kendall is going to let us know a little bit about what she's got on.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, I'm Kendall, and I am coming all the way from the backcountry here in North Carolina. I live just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am involved in a living history site here, and it is very exciting to be at this virtual garden party. So thank you for the invitation. I am wearing a very middle-class day gown. It is 100% Irish linen. So this is an indigo gown, and I'm also, you can't see much, but I'm also wearing a pumpkin colored indigo or a pumpkin colored linen petticoat. So this is very, very standard middle class English gown, very common for the mid 18th century up through about the Revolutionary War. I'm also drinking Switchel today, which is known as America's first energy drink. So think 18th century Gatorade. So it is lovely to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Great. That's great. Kendall, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. You'll notice, everybody, that everyone at our virtual garden party is enjoying their own little garden today. We wish that they could all be here with us physically, but they can't, unfortunately, COVID-19 notwithstanding. So we're really grateful that everybody is joining us today digitally. Let's throw it over to Denis. Are you there, Denis?
So thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I am in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I am dressed in day wear, wool, frock coat. It's a little bit out of fashion. I can tell from some of the way it's cut. I have a wool waistcoat, and then a fur felt hat, trousers, or sorry, not trousers, I'm sorry, linen knee breeches, which you can't really see. And then I am enjoying cider here at the party today. Oh, I left out some things. Sorry. I'm also a artist, plein air painter, and I even brought my sketchbook and my porta crayon. I do various paintings, historical themed, and you can check all that out on my Instagram feed at Denis Byrd Art, and you can also find me on Facebook.
That's great. Thank you, Denis. Yes, all of our guests today are incredibly talented folks, and we're so fortunate to have them joining us today. So they're going to definitely let you know where they're from, what their Instagram accounts are. We really encourage you to follow and help them out. Every one of them is an incredibly talented living historian. They dedicate their time and they're volunteering for us today. So as much as you support Middleton Place Foundation and the National Historic Landmark, we really hope that you go ahead and support these individuals as well. It's a big community. It's a big family community here in Living History World, and we're just so grateful to have you all here. Andrew, did you want to say a little something about what you're wearing today?
Certainly. I'm also wearing a frock coat. It's just starting to get warm, so I am still in a wool frock coat. Linen would be would have been a nice option for today, but the wool is light and breathable and is still quite comfortable. But it's certainly better than being undressed. So underneath I have a waistcoat, and then linen breeches, and then striped stockings.
So fashionable.
And Sign of the Gray Horse doesn't have jewelry for just the ladies. My shoe buckles are also from Sign of the Gray Horse. So I would be representing a middling class gentleman. Tony. Unlike Tony Lovett, who's just joined us.
We have a new arrival, and we'll speak with Tony shortly. I did want to hop over to Jennifer if we could. Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about what you're wearing and your business?
All right, thank you. So I have been a living history interpreter for about 30 years since I was a teenager. Really. At this point, my business is actually making 18th century floor cloths, which I'll show you in a moment. Speakers not working. Can you hear me? Able to hear me? I'm having a technical difficulty. Here, I need to get my here. Hey Pam, can you please help?
She forgot to mute.
That's okay. We will
There we
we'll
go.
come back to Jennifer in just a minute. I think she's having a small bit of connection issues. Brett, would you mind talking to us about what you're wearing and also about being a tailor?
Well, I really appreciate you inviting me to your garden party today. I wish we could have been there in person. The weather is wonderful for such an event. I'm here in my garden outside my house, and I'm enjoying a nice cup of cinnamon water, which was a treat here in Salem, North Carolina, that the Moravians made often, and I picked up the recipe from them. And so I currently live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina today. And I'm an 18th century tailor. As a matter of fact, that's my handle on Instagram. You can follow me at 18th Century Tailor. And I did have quite a bit of difficulty today trying to decide what to wear. As a tailor, what I wear is my calling card. And so I'm fully aware that it will be scrutinized by everyone, particularly if we were all attending this garden party in person. And don't deny it, you would be checking it out to assess the quality of my hand. But nonetheless, I have to remember my position as a simple tailor. I have a simple shop, and so I have to be mindful that of my station, so that I don't dress above that, because that could be perceived as disrespectful and possibly even as a dandy. So today I chose to wear day clothes also. So I have on a blue linen waistcoat, a blue linen frock coat. So the style, cloth-covered buttons that you might see on here, and the turn-back cuffs. Underneath it, my small clothes are also linen. My small clothes are made of a white linen waistcoat, white linen knee breeches, and then I'm also wearing cotton stockings and shoes with buckles, which was pretty much the style of the time. Underneath this, just to make sure that I'm of some fashion and show some sociability, I'm wearing a ruffled shirt, double ruffles, and then ruffles on the cuff, so that I can mingle with my potential clients as we enjoy the festivities of the day and the weather and the wonderful gardens.
Thank you so much. That's so interesting. So remember, everybody, not everyone in the 18th century made their own clothes. I'm a perfect example. I am a terrible seamstress, and by terrible I mean I don't know how to make anything. I am portraying somebody who would have patronized a business like Brett's or a seamstress's and mantua makers, because I can't make my own clothes. Not something that everyone was able to do, and frankly, not something everyone needed to do. People who owned places like Middleton Place probably would have been purchasing most of their clothing if they weren't having it made on site by enslaved seamstresses and tailors. So the tailoring and seamstressing and mantua making professions are really important in the 18th century, and it's something that we should consider when we're looking to these interpretations, because not everybody could sew. So we're here in the octagonal garden here at Middleton Place, and just behind us is one of the live oak trees that people love to get married under these days. That is still something that happens here at Middleton Place, but more importantly, this part of the garden used to be a bowling green. It's where folks used to play skittles and pall mall and quoits and graces. So this is meant to be an outdoor room, a space that was lived in. We're going to continue walking a little bit, but Christian, would you be willing to chime in and talk a little bit about what you're wearing?
Certainly. Thank you so much for inviting me to the garden party. It's the first time I've ever been to one at Middleton Place from Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm wearing a day dress, but from a little bit later in the 18th century. This is probably circa 1795. And so you'll see that the silhouette, I'll stand up in a moment, but the silhouette is very different. Instead of having a cone-shaped torso, the waist has come up very high to just under the bust. And the fabric is much more flowing. And so this is an India cotton print. I am portraying a merchant's wife, you might say a wealthy merchant's wife, to be able to afford fabric like this. But otherwise, the dress is fairly simple, as well as the jewelry and modesty scarf. And I'm sorry I can't give a shout out to anyone because I've made everything that I have on right now. So I'll get up and take a turn. And thank you very much.
Christian is one of those talented seamstresses that we know who is so kind in helping people like me dress ourselves because people like me can't. So Christian is an incredibly talented seamstress. I'm glad she let you all know that she has made every stitch she is wearing, because if she hadn't told you that, I was going to. So thank you, Christian. I'm so glad that you did that. Now, before we head over into the sundial garden, sir, would you like to tell us about what you're wearing? Tell us who you are, where you're from.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tony Lovett. I'm actually a cabinet maker, pretty well to do. I'm doing really well here in Charlestowne. Got plenty of high profile clients such as the Middletons. So I can afford a little bit more fineries, and I'm in kind of a lounge wear, if you will. A little more comfortable. This is known as a banyan. There's also in the 1740s, 50s, I think even 60s, you have what's called a wrapper. It's a little bit larger. As a matter of fact, Henry Middleton, one of his famous photos, has a beautiful, nice wrapper that he's wearing. But this is a banyan. I can use it, wear it out on the town, usually if I'm going to a coffee house or another social gathering in the evening. But typically this is worn in the home to look very, just more comfortable. There's a nice painting of Mr. Charles Pinckney, which I would call a little risque. He is not wearing a waistcoat, only a nice open shirt showing a little bit of his chest area.
Oh my.
Yes, but he is wearing a beautiful wrapper. Everything that I am wearing, I am an amateur seamster. Prior to becoming a cabinet maker, I did dabble in tailoring. So other than the banyan, everything is made by myself, to include this nice new brand new shirt. So there it has it. This is nice, what's called an undress cap. Brett probably knows a lot more than I do, but this is a silk taffeta. And there's several different types you'll find that are worn with banyans. Some are a 4-panel construction with 2-panel, as well with, yeah, that's not a thing. I can't remember the actual material of it, but yeah. So this is one of my favorite though. It looks dashing.
It does look dashing. And so this is something that you would certainly wear to a friend or a client's home like the Middletons.
Yes.
Even though it is mostly in the home. So that tells you a little something about the social relationship between parties, between families, between clients and merchants. So as a cabinet maker, as a friend of the Middletons, this is perfectly appropriate. This is not a bathrobe. It's not a bathrobe. So I'm so sorry that Jennifer dropped out on us. I hope that you were all able to see the beautiful silk gown that she was wearing. She was wearing a silk gown with lots of trim and ribbon, sort of up around here where I've got robings, they're called, just along here. Hers were trimmed. She had much more lace across the front than I did. She had ribbons at her elbows and a giant stomacher brooch. All of her jewelry came from Kim as well. And she was portraying really very much, including pannier pockets, an upper class lady with her hair done, and Kendall's hair is done as well. So all of these things signal social standing. They signal whose parties one might be going to, whose parties one might be invited to. I'm not entirely sure that any of us, except for maybe Tony, would be invited to a party that Jennifer was hosting. She's so fancy. So it's important.
Jennifer appears to be
She's back. Yay! I'm so glad.
Huzzah!
So Jennifer, if you're here, could you tell us again about, if you want to, about your clothes, and especially please about the floor cloths that you wanted to feature today, and how that worked for ladies of a certain social standing in decorating their homes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? we tried the turn it on and off again thing. Is it okay now? So
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you. So basically what I'm wearing today, I certainly wouldn't be wearing while I'm making floor cloths. But a woman of this stature, I'm going to stand up and show you the panniers. I would be able to afford a very expensive floor cloth, not just your checkerboard, a wonderful like Cicimurri type. This is a piece of my work, but something much fancier. And this is also the panniers. Much fancier than the regular checkerboard. So she can afford the fancy wallpaper, the fancy floor coverings, Turkish rugs, and basically she is indulging in a lot of comfortable details of life that other classes aren't able to afford. And as was spoken of before, things like the ruching on the gown here would take a very long time. So she would not be doing it herself necessarily. She would be getting somebody else to really deck out this dress. I'm still working on mine, and I just thought I would show you the ruching process. You have a piece this long, and it ends up just a little bit of ruching. So it takes a really long time. So I just thought that was interesting that I'm learning about as I'm making it. And so you can imagine when you look at all of the other the gowns that just have rows and rows and just patterns of it, how long it really took, or how many people were really involved in those gowns. So that's my 2 cents on ruching and floor cloths. And my Instagram is Jennifer McKay Higgins. And I will also mention, I'm also wearing a lot of Sign of the Gray Horse here. Earring, necklace, brooch. We love Sign of the Gray Horse. But thank you.
Yay, I'm so glad that worked so much better that time. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad we got
Great. Well, thank you.
So we're here in the sundial garden, firstly. You can see behind me, well, yeah, here's the sundial. It actually works, folks. It really does. It's the funny thing about
No batteries
sundials
needed.
with no mechanical parts or batteries. But behind me here is the Middleton oak, and this oak is estimated to be between 900 and 1,000 years old. So we did want to show you some scenery that all of our friends would normally be strolling in with us. Although all of their gardens and backyards are quite lovely as well. We wanted to give you all settings. Certainly folks like the Middletons would have employed floor cloths like the ones that Jennifer was just showing us. And in terms of the trim, let me tell you, if you all watched our segment on Tuesday about dressing a lady in the 18th century, the striped gown that I put on that has that ruching all the way down the shoulders and all the way down the front of the gown, I forgot how many yards of fabric our wonderful seamstress Nicole, who you've seen numerous times on this program, said it took to create all of that pleated ruching that it takes forever and it takes a lot of material. One of the things that I learned this week in exploring clothing was that that kind of gown wouldn't necessarily be made all by the same person. There would be a seamstress to drape the gown. There would be somebody else to trim it out. There would be somebody else to create petticoats or under things. So it really took a lot of different hands to create one outfit for somebody to wear. And again, that is happening probably by enslaved hands. Even in Charlestowne here, a seamstress or a tailor may have employed enslaved workers to do some of that work, just like we know that cabinet makers like Thomas Elk had enslaved workers that helped to create his creations and all the things that we know him for today. His hands certainly weren't in every piece. So really important to remember how these clothes are being constructed and what they convey. Don't forget to put any questions in the comments if you have any, and if you think of something later, that's fine. Drop them right there in the comments because we will go back and answer them for you. Let us know who you have questions about, or if you want to see anything else in particular around here in the gardens. We're going to continue strolling around, but I also wanted to open it up to our friends here on the program in all of our various different places. We do have a few minutes left, so I wanted to say that if anybody has anything else that they'd like to add or something that you forgot to mention, and that goes for you gentlemen too, right here with me, please chime on in, maybe raise your hand so that we know who's unmuting their microphone first, and we can chat for a little bit longer.
Kendall, go ahead.
Okay. I forgot to mention, of course I went first, so I forgot all the important things. I forgot to mention where you can find me on social media. I am the founder and managing director of the Linen Agency. So on Facebook and on Instagram, I am the Linen Agency. I am actually a living history events planner, and have had the good fortune of a lot of folks here at this virtual garden party being involved in some of the events that I've planned. And I am also, I work in marketing for people in the living history community, which is a quite unique job to have in this community. But I would love to connect with you on Facebook or on Instagram at the Linen Agency. Obviously, I like linen, so if you haven't figured that out.
That's great. Thank you, Kendall. Appreciate that. I'm glad you got that in because I was wondering. I didn't recall hearing you say anything about the Linen Agency. We have a great weekend event coming up this weekend, and I'm so fortunate to have Kendall and Denis and Brett here with us because I'm pretty sure they're all involved. So thanks, ladies, lady and gentlemen, for taking some time out this afternoon. I'm sure that you're all busy in preparation, and Tony too. So thank you very much. So I don't think that we have any questions. Yeah, let's get a shot of those fine gentlemen again. Aren't they dashing? Oh my goodness. Well, we're gonna walk through some of the shadier alleys here.
Lots of love for the outfits, no questions yet.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I don't know, we're not really leaving a whole lot of room for questions. I mean, we're pretty well covering it. But we're gonna take a little walk here and continue our path. If any of our presenters have anything else that they want to say, you should definitely chime in. Do we have someone? Oh, okay.
No.
I was getting a thank you all so much, and glad Arthur thanks you, and on behalf of Andrew and Tony and all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go find a little spot to say goodbye and give folks a chance to chime in if they want to, either our presenters or of course people watching and with questions. So next week on the program, we we haven't quite nailed down yet what our theme for Plugged into History is going to be, but I think we're going to move forward in time a little bit. So if you all remember, Christian was telling you about her 1790s gown, and I think we're going to move right past the turn of the 19th century and talk a little bit about a later generation of Middletons and their worldview and the enslaved workers who were part of their lives and whose lives they were a part of. So we have got all sorts of new and interesting stuff to share with you, and we're really excited to do that. So make sure that you come back and join us. All of our Plugged into History programming. It's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 a.m. And of course, Fridays at 5 p.m. because we need a little happy hour to start the weekend out, right? We really appreciate you joining us. The mission of Middleton Place Foundation is to connect people to the past, and in doing so, using American history to better understand ourselves and each other. And every time you join us, every time you share, every time you engage with us, you help us to do that. So thank you so much. Do we have a question?
Yes.
Oh, we have a question.
Yes. What was the floorboard mentioned with the Byrd pattern?
Jennifer, can you talk about your floor cloth one more time, what it's made out of and where you got that Byrd pattern?
Mute. Okay. So this is made of 1% cotton canvas. This is my design that's on here. In the 18th century, we're not sure they really put the chickens or design on the floor cloth per se. They definitely made reproductions of shrubs. Again.
So we'll make sure also, I will make sure that Sabrina, Digital Middleton Place, thank you so much. We'll make sure that Sabrina puts some links in the comments. We'll make sure to get all of our presenters' Instagram handles if they want to share them with you, and Etsy shops and all of the wonderful ways that you can find some of our wonderful artisans who are joining us today. So don't worry, we will get you that information. Make sure that you follow these comments, come back to this post, and we'll share all of that with you so that you can find them. Jennifer is at Jennifer McKay Higgins on Instagram, and you can find her Etsy shop as well if you search her name. So make sure that if you're interested in a floor cloth, which by the way, most of the stuff that we're wearing, okay, not so great for modern times, right? But jewelry is versatile and jewelry is timeless. And so are floor cloths. Folks, let me tell you, I don't know how many people in their modern kitchens, in their modern homes use these beautiful canvas painted floor cloths. So one of the reasons why we find it so important to talk about our friends' work and art and business, and Tony, your cabinet making. So yeah, really important because these are things that are timeless. They definitely surpass generations. And so if you're interested in buying a floor cloth, buying some jewelry, buying some furniture or small woodworked items, then we want you to be able to find our wonderful artisans here. Brett with his tailoring, and of course Kendall with her events. So we'll make sure to get all of that information for you. Sorry that the sound is going a little wonky there.
Elizabeth would like to know about turban fashion.
Turban fashion. Would anybody like to raise their hands and talk about turbans?
Nobody's raising their hand.
So turbans see in the late 18th century, and then really they get popular in the early 19th century Regency era. But there is an 18th century garment, late 18th century garment called robe à la Turque, which is French for Turkish dress. And that's when putting hair up in strips of cloth in homemade turbans started to become popular. And then that trend carried through into the Regency era, if I'm correct. In fact, I bought one not too long ago that's got a lovely ostrich feather. So maybe someday soon here we'll talk about, well, what we often call Regency, the Jane Austen era, but here in this country is the early federal period. So Yeah, turbans. I'll bust it out for you, Elizabeth. We'll bring it out. Well, as we head back towards the octagonal garden here, I just wanted to thank everybody again, and our viewers certainly, because without you, this mission doesn't continue, and without you supporting the foundation, this place and everything that we do can't exist. But also, really importantly today, I wanted to thank all of our presenters, Jennifer up in Virginia, and Kendall and Denis and Brett in North Carolina, Christian up in Columbia, and Tony and Andrew here with me in Charleston. It is such a pleasure to host a garden party with you. And as Brett so rightly mentioned, next time in person and here at Middleton Place. Don't forget, everybody, that garments are a way to express yourself, and there is definitely much pride in being able to create your own. And even if you can't, there is much pride in being able to express yourself through the good hard work of someone else and being able to share their skill and knowledge through your dress. So there's so much to be unwrapped with fashion. Unfortunately, that wraps up our fashion week here in the 18th century, but there's a lot more to learn. So if you have questions, don't forget to head on over to middletonplace.org. The Plugged into History digital portal does have some additional information, some additional reading if you really want to get into some books about it. And don't forget to ask us questions here on social media. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We couldn't do it without you. It's just not a party without a bunch of friends. So thank you so much. I toast to you, to absent friends. I know it's not the right day of the week, but to absent friends, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you.